All right, Brian Haenchen and Danny Riego here with you, and we're joined by Kaley May, head coach at Danville. Danville getting ready to take on Bishop Chatard. Kaley, what's going on?
Nothing much. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on board. Great to have you here talking about Chatard. Let's start with talking about your team. I saw you all at the county tournament, and then I read Kyle's story from the sectional championship. How are you feeling about this year's group?
You know, we weren't quite sure what to expect going into the season. We knew we had a strong group, and just weren't quite sure how far we'd make it. I think we've surprised ourselves a little bit, but we also knew we had a very competitive group. So, in the same way that we're surprised, I think we're proud of what we've accomplished, and we are proud of the fact that we made it as far as we knew we could. So that potential was always there. So it's great to see that we've kind of reached our potential in a lot of ways.
You've come up just a hair short the past couple of years, be with Tri-West, Cascade last year. What's the difference for this year's team to get them over that hump and get them into this point of the year?
I think we've got a lot of resilience with this group, and we've got a lot of balance. And I think our leadership has really taken us far this year. Cooper Stone obviously went down for us in December, but she has remained a big voice for us on the sidelines. And her and Emma Anslet are close and great leaders for our groups. And Emma's been playing great. And I think, she's kind of the catalyst for us. So when she's playing great, we roll with her, and she opens up a lot of doors for us as a team. So, shout out to her for the season that she's had as a junior. And I really appreciate, what she's been able to allow our team to do just with her skill set.
Addison Davis. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
Well, just while we're on Anslet, and I, of course, she would come up this early in the conversation, but she had arguably the second best team in your sectional was Cascade. She has 27 against them, but in the next two games, the sectional championship game and the regional championship game, her point production was down, but she had 9 assists and 10 assists respectively.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she seems like a kid who's just going to do what you need to win. Mm-hmm. Is that the way that she approaches every game, or do you approach just trying to get her point production up?
No, that's points really aren't a focal point for her or our staff. I mean, she really is the kind of kid that's just going to do what needs to be done to win. And I think she kind of takes it with whatever she's receiving that night defensively. If they're running and jumping her or trapping her, then she's finding the open person or setting up the play for somebody to get an easy bucket. So I think she gets more excited about sweet assists than she does her own points most of the time. So and we make a big point out of it, as a staff and as a team, of really recognizing the playmaking ability that she has and that others have for with passing just as much as we do the scoring side of it. So, she's, like I said, she's opened a lot of doors for us offensively with what we can do, and setting up other players on our team to get good looks just because of who she is.
Addison Davis, too, for you guys. I mean, she's just tenacious on the board, scoring a ton of points for you. What have you seen out of her this year?
She's just a monster in the best way. I mean, she's relentless when it comes to rebounding. Probably one of the best rebounders I've seen, and definitely that I've coached. She just she has no quit in her, and she's fearless on the court. And I think her toughness and her own life carries over to sports for sure. And so, it's when she has those great games or high scoring games or high rebounding games, it's really great to see because she works so hard. So when you see, her get recognized for having a great game, it's exciting for all of us because of the kind of kid she is.
There's a regular season game that I wanted to ask you about, and that was the McCutcheon game. I'd seen you right before that. We were talking about Lily Graves and some of the challenges that she presents, and I think you guys held her to 9 points in a come from behind win, 52-45. How did you approach that defensively, and what did you learn about your team in that game?
I think, we've joked all year about my team that we may not be the best practice team in the world, but we're a bunch of gamers. So they know that about themselves, and we kind of laugh about it. But they are extremely competitive. And when I put a challenge out in front of them, they fight like crazy dogs to make sure that they give everything they got. So when we talked about Lily Graves and how, she was hands down one of the best kids we would see this year, I think they embraced that challenge. We didn't do anything crazy against her. We just, we guarded her pretty straight up and then ran and jumped her on the catch to try to get the ball out of her hands. So I know that's stuff that she's seen all year. Whether we made her have a hard night or whether she just had a tough night herself, doesn't, who knows. But I was just proud of our kids because it seems like every time we play a really tough team, our kids rise to the challenge and really embrace taking on those more talented players.
So Hank will spin this forward, and we've seen a lot of Chatard here, and I know you have this week as well. So we'll spin this forward to talk about the regional. But before we do, just a global question, and I've asked every coach that we've had on. Obviously, the semi-state is a different construction than regional is. Now you have 3 teams. So what's your philosophy in regards to the 3 scouts and the 3 teams and implementation during practice? Is this just going to be a 1-game thing, or have you already started on all 3 teams? What's your philosophy there?
I think your superstitions come into play a little bit as a coach, but I also think it's important to be educated and prepared. So, I'm certainly focusing most of my attention and efforts right now on Chatard. That is our main focus, our main goal in practice as well. I talked to our kids today about don't get too far ahead of yourselves. We need to focus on what's right in front of us. And that's kind of been my speech this entire postseason and pretty much every postseason. But as a coach, I'm certainly going to be watching all 3 and preparing for all 3. That way, if we are fortunate enough to advance to the championship game, that I don't have to stress out in the middle of the day trying to prepare for a huge game. So, with our kids, I think it's important to just keep them focused on what's right in front of them. But for our coaching staff, I know that we will have a deeper knowledge of all 3 teams just in case. So
we talked about this a little bit off air, but looking at Bishop Chatard now, the physicality that they bring and some of the different pieces that they have, what do they compare to other teams that you've seen this season?
They're a little bit of a lot of teams that we've played. So, I think of some of our more physical opponents and our tougher rebounding teams that we've played against, like Decatur Central and Silver Creek. They've got, guard balance out front and multiple weapons similar to Plainfield. So, we've seen several teams that have challenged us in different ways. And I think Chatard's going to be the same way. We have got to be very fundamental with how we approach the game. We've got to have the correct rotations, get ball pressure where we need it so they can't get the ball inside to Caskey, try to close up driving lanes so Berzai doesn't get, easy driving lanes to the rim. And so a big focus for us, the 2 big focuses, I think, will be transition defense and rebounding. But the thing I love about this game is I think that a lot of our strengths are their strengths as well. So it'll be fun because I think we're very even in a lot of ways.
So to prepare for this game, do you bring in boys to help practice the team? Do you do anything different in practice? Or you just kind of handle it business as normal and build in things strategically?
I think, it's important in some ways to have consistency with your kids, just so, they get in their routine. We've got an assistant coach that has been on my staff for a few years now, and he's always the other team's best player. So he gets beat up in practice all the time, and shout out to Perry Burnworth because he takes it in stride. And then I have another former player, Katie Davis, that graduated in 2020 for us, and she was on the talented group that we had for 4 years. And she jumps into practice as well. So, shout out to both of them because they get beat up quite a bit. And, they have to run several plays and whether they're in shape for it or not. But we don't have a boys practice team. We haven't since I've been there. I know it's a kind of a coach's preference thing. But yeah, for me, I think it's staying consistent, staying with your routines, obviously helping them to understand the importance of the moment as if they need to. I think they understand that, but it's just being simplifying and focusing on the important details.
In terms of the random draw element and getting that first game in the very first slot, do you like having the 10 a.m. start to get it out of the way, or would you prefer to play at noon?
I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a few regionals now, and I used to have all these theories, about if you play the 10 o'clock game, then you get to see the other team, or if you play the noon game, you get to sleep in a little bit. I don't know. I mean, really, there's benefits to both. If I had my preference, probably the noon game. But at the end of the day, we've talked to our kids about it too. It's just, players making plays. So regardless of what time you play, it's just about being present in the moment, being focused on what you need to, and showing up and being ready to grind it out.
So what are you going to do with your team? So you have the early game, and it's in
Mhm.
Jasper, right? I mean, that's not exactly close. So I would assume you're going to get down there the night before. And
Yeah. So we were very thankful because Jasper was willing to let Chatard practice and let us practice Friday night. So I would really appreciate Jasper being willing to do that. And so, yeah, both us and Chatard are going down Friday night to practice. We'll practice after them and then wake up and battle it out. So yeah, I was thankful for that because I was, trying to figure out the logistics of going down in the middle of the week. And, it's about a 3-hour drive on a bus where I have to follow the speed limit. So anyway, yeah, so I was very glad that we got to practice on Friday. That way we can just kind of get, a feel good practice, get a lot of shots up, focus on the little things that we need to do, and get prepared for Saturday morning.
So do you guys have like a routine for these road trips? I mean, obviously you don't go on a ton of them during the course of the season, but do you kind of have a routine over the years with the players who've been around?
Yes and no. I think it's different with your team and kind of the construct of them. With this group, we have had a few road trips, so we kind of know what they're like in hotels, and they're a responsible group. They actually get some rest and they have fun. Don't worry, but they get their rest, and I think they understand the importance of the moment. So it's not going to be a battle to get them to to get to bed or lights out or anything like that, or putting tape over the doors like people used to do. But I think I think they'll handle it well. I like that we're able to go down the night before. The previous 2 semi-states we went to, we did not go down the night before. And I think, coaches have different theories. I have wondered, would we have been better off if we did? But honestly, just depends on your group, I think. So I like this setup of going down the night before, letting them sleep in a little bit longer and have some breakfast and try to get their legs under them a little bit. So
I'm curious, with this group, how did they respond to the moment of kind of being the heavy favorites, both in the sectional championship game and then last week too against in the regional championship? No disrespecting those teams, obviously, but Danville was a pretty heavy favorite going in. How did the girls respond to that? And was it easy to keep them sharp and dialed in?
Yeah, I mean, I like I joked before, we could be a little lax in practice sometimes. So we had some good little heart-to-heart moments of, you haven't won anything yet. You haven't done anything yet. It doesn't, we're all 0-0 going into the postseason. So I think, they did a nice job of staying focused on what we needed to do. And like I mentioned, they really embraced challenges. And so I was, finding challenges within the game and with certain players and that they were guarding of limiting them to certain things. So I think our kids did a nice job of staying focused and understanding the big picture, that it's, not just about this individual game. It's about what we're trying to do as a team. And so I have, an older group, so they're more mature, but this group has never won any sectionals. So it's the first group that I've had that didn't know what it was like to climb a ladder. And so I kept reminding them of that and the importance of staying locked in and the importance of, details and staying sharp in practice. And so they've done a nice job. And I think, now that we have certainly a tough game Saturday morning, and like I said, if we're fortunate enough to advance to Saturday night, I know that they will step up to the challenge. I know we'll compete regardless.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kaley, so much for joining us. It was great talking with you, and best of luck here on Saturday night or Saturday morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Kaley, good luck.
Thank you. Good to see you.